If you are thinking about getting a mountain bike this year and you're feeling overwhelmed, trust me, you're not alone. I get asked a lot on my gaming channel whenever I upload a bike video, what bike should I buy? And honestly, it is a hard question. Bikes are expensive, there's a lot of options, and it can feel like if you pick wrong, you're stuck. So this video is basically if I were to sit down with myself, if I was starting totally fresh and sharing some of the stuff that I've learned over the years. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I am not a tech head or a bike reviewer. I've been riding for over 20 years. I raced for like 7 or 8 of those. I've learned a lot along the way about what actually matters, at least to me, when buying a bike, so I want to share some of that with you. The very first thing you need to consider is what kind of terrain you're planning on riding. That piece dictates everything else. Are you riding mellow single track, cross-country trails, maybe some light trail stuff? You're probably in that hardtail cross-country territory. Or do you want to shuttle big descents, hit jump lines, ride the bike park? You're definitely going to want to steer towards full suspension. And if you don't really know yet, that's okay too. A lot of folks just want to get out and explore. But it's still helpful to be real with yourself. Don't buy a big old 170 millimeter enduro sled just because it looks rad. If the local trails you're going to be hitting each day are mainly flat and flowy, you'll hate pedaling the thing and you'll probably end up riding it a little bit less. Depending on where you live, depending on the kind of terrain you plan on riding. Like if I was brand new today, I'd be looking at a hardtail 2.9er, just straight up. They're cheaper to get into. They're a lot easier to maintain. They teach you really good riding skills. You've got to learn how to use your legs and read the trail because you don't have a big rear suspension to bail you out of things. And that's going to make you a better rider, period, if you enjoy the sport and then you do upgrade to a full suspension. And they're just fun. My favorite bikes over the years have been hardtails. I wish I had one right now. There's something raw and simple about a hardtail. If you feel everything, and when you clean a really techie or tough line, it just feels so satisfying. And if you're wondering, a hardtail is just a bike that doesn't have suspension in the rear. Most major brands make great hardtails in that $1,000 to $1,500 range. If you go a little bit higher, you can get into those really aggressive trail hardtails, which look pretty cool. And these bikes typically come with pretty good entry-level components. Sometimes even an air fork, not always. Sometimes you get those super heavy like SR Suntour ones, but honestly, if you're brand new and you're not sure about the sport, these have a lot of capability to grow with you. If you do go that route, like a hardtail 2.9er, a few things I would consider. A dropper post, or dropper post compatibility. It doesn't necessarily have to come with one, but make sure that the frame supports internal routing, or at least has room for an external dropper. This is one of the inventions that has been mind-blowing in mountain biking. The mountain biking marketing industry is very good at telling you, oh, you need the latest and the greatest, and we come up every year with something new that invalidates last year's tech. And most of the time, it's just a bunch of marketing fluff. But a dropper post truly changes everything. This allows your rear seat to go up and down, kind of like an office chair. So you lower it when you're descending. It gives your hips a much larger range of movement to sort of put your weight in different spots on the bike as you're descending, and they are just safer and better. I don't want to ride a bike anymore that doesn't have a dropper post. The other thing I would consider is a tapered head tube. I mean, anything that you're looking at these days probably is gonna have it, but a tapered head tube gives you the options to upgrade your fork down the road, and that's pretty important. And then the last thing I would consider is tubeless ready wheels. Tubeless tires are another one of those huge game changers in terms of mountain biking in the last 15 years. They improve traction, you avoid pinch flats, and honestly, swapping to good tires is one of the first upgrades I do on any bike that I own. Even budget bikes can feel remarkably improved if you throw a good pair of tires on them. If your budget allows for it, or you're a gravity shredder, you're going to be doing aggressive trails or shuttle days, bike park stuff, then full suspension is the route, and they are sweet. And I don't want to discourage you from going this direction. It introduces more cost because full suspension bikes are more complex. They have more moving parts. There's more things to service now with the rear shock and eventually the bearings. And potentially some opportunities for things to go sideways if the design isn't solid. As with everything in this video, I'm going to encourage you to read watch, and ask. Do a ton of research about whatever you're looking at, because not all suspension designs are created equally. The mountain bike marketing space is always trying to come up with the new frame with a new design that looks cool, that kind of invalidates the previous year and gives you that FOMO, oh, I need this. And sometimes they cut corners and reliability falls to the wayside. I rode a stump jumper from 2018 until 2023, and I loved that bike. Oh, the geometry just felt like incredible. The spec, it was so nice, and it was a value bike, and I really enjoyed it. However, it uses the Clevis style shock mount with the long yoke attached to the rear linkage, like quite a few bikes do these days. And that setup is known to put quite a bit of lateral force on the rear shock, which can lead to some shocks, depending on how hard you ride, how hard you corner and stuff, just failing early. I had to replace the original shock with a DPX2, and it just kept blowing the damper out after really aggressive riding. I know that's not the case for everyone, but I wish I knew a little bit more about suspension design when I was in that buying process. Now, I'm on a Fuel EX right now, which is a trunnion mount setup. It's not perfect, so you can kind of, there's some irony from Clevis to trunnion, but the point of all of this is just don't fall for flashy frame designs or wild marketing. I really like looking at long-term durability. Watch reviews, ask people who actually ride hard what their experience has been, because some of the sleek, new, amazing designs might be incredible, but if it's not reliable, what's really the point? A huge change in the space in the last decade has been the direct-to-consumer option. Now, this is just a model where you can go online, find the bike you want, order it, they ship it to your house. It's really easy to build up, and there's often some huge cost savings to it. The alternative, the traditional, the local bike shop model, and they can also be awesome if it's a good shop. You can build a relationship. Maybe you get some free tune-ups if you buy from them, and they will usually help with setup and warranty. If you're new and not super mechanical, that can be huge. But not all shops are created equal. Some do overcharge. Some treat beginners like they're idiots. They've got the gatekeeping elitism. Some have service departments that don't really take care of your stuff. I've had both good and bad experiences. Some shops I'd go out of my way to support, and others I just wouldn't use again. Now, the direct-to-consumer brands, the YTs, the Canyons, the Aries, these bikes often come with amazing kit, like really nice parts for the money. You can get a full suspension rig with high-end suspension, a nice drivetrain for way cheaper than the typical local bike shop brand. The downside can be you're a little bit on your own. You'll have to build it, set it up, and deal with the warranty stuff yourself, unless you want to pay the shop to help. Totally doable, but I know there are some people who just want somebody to do it for them. So again, it's case by case. If you've got a solid shop in your town, try and support them. If not, and if you're comfortable doing a bit of your own maintenance, the direct-to-consumer can be a great move. And you can always take your DTC bike to your local shop if you need a service or a tune that you're not really comfortable with doing yourself. 2025 is a fantastic time to buy. It's one of the best years ever to get into the sport. The industry is overstocked on everything, and there are deals all over the place. Brands are slashing prices to move inventory. I've seen bikes that are, $4,000, or they were a few years ago, going for like $2,500 or less now. I will shoot totally straight. Expensive does not always mean better. More money usually gets you lighter weight, not more durability. And if you're starting out, I would argue durability matters more. There's a lot of nuance. We could split hairs about a bunch of things, but on the whole, I love for that full suspension, especially with prices right now, that $3K, maybe in that $4K range, you can get a pretty incredible bike. There are some diminishing returns. You don't need the factory shock with high speed and low speed compression. It's really nice, and those are really cool tunable things, but if you're just getting started, that's something I would slate into an upgrade down the road. Some of the most fun bikes I've ever ridden were not the fanciest. They were just reliable, predictable, and let me focus on the ride. I wasn't obsessed with the tech side. The one thing I did not mention is used. I typically don't like for new people to get into the sport by buying a used piece of equipment. My experience has always been, at least in my community, people ride bikes hard here. And then they try and sell them for a pretty hefty price. And these bikes are clapped out. Like they have been ridden so hard. And unless you know what you're looking for, hairline cracks and frames are tricky to spot on like Facebook Marketplace photos. You don't necessarily know if they've been honest about when their suspension was serviced or whatnot. And you just don't want a key piece of equipment failing because you saved an extra $500 or $1,000. I've heard cool things about some of the shops that do check things out, like the Pros Closet and whatever. But I mean, at this point, especially with the prices in the industry, if you are brand new, my gut, you can do whatever you want, but my gut would be for most people to avoid used, just because you don't want a critical part failing, especially if you're new to the sport, because you just didn't know what to look for when you were buying something off a marketplace or Craigslist or whatever. So if I were starting from scratch today, and it's trail riding like what I've shown in the video, I'd start with the 2.9er hardtail, probably that 1K to like $1,500 range. I would look for a tapered head tube, dropper compatibility if it doesn't already have one, and tubeless ready rims. Plan to upgrade the tires first, like immediately if they don't have a good set off the start. And if I had the budget and I needed full suspension, I'm probably looking mainly at the direct-to-consumer brands right now, especially the ones with solid reviews. I'm paying very close attention to the shock mount and the suspension design. I'd also look around at local bike shops to see if they have some demos or rentals. Some will apply the rental fee towards the bike if you end up buying it from them. A lot of these bike shops do have some pretty wicked discounts. If they're trying to get something off the floor that's been there since 2023, you might even have some wiggle room to negotiate with them. And I don't really believe in the perfect bike. The best bike is the one that gets you out riding consistently. Do your research, read and watch reviews. I love Jeff Kendall Weed and Free Hub Magazine. They make incredible review-based content. They ride a ton, and there are those sources out there now with YouTube where you can just really get more info than you ever could before. Don't get paralyzed by analysis. Pick something reliable, upgrade slowly if you want, and just go ride. That's pretty much what it's all about. And I could be completely wrong. So take everything I say with a grain of salt and trust yourself. Do your homework. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you're riding, what I missed, what you're looking at this next year. I'd love to hear what you're considering, especially if you're just getting into the sport. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again very soon.